We all know there's a million ways to get from point A to point B. I mean, you could go the difficult, slow way. Or you could go the easy way, which a lot of times is a whole lot more fun and definitely a lot faster. So in this video, I'm gonna go over some of the best tips, tricks, and hacks that I know of that Doberman owners use all the time to get them through some of the sticky parts of Doberman ownership. So let's jump straight into it. First up is the poop trick, and I know I caught your attention with that name, but with the poop trick, what you can do is you can take a small piece of your dog's poop and actually put it in a hole that they're digging in their backyard. If they're destroying a section of the yard by digging a hole in your garden or in your grass or something like that, you put a little bit of their poop in there, cover it up, and you can be just about guaranteed that your dog will move on to the next spot. It's a really weird trick, but it's incredibly effective and works on almost all dogs. Up next, we have the whisper commands trick. Now, this trick is a great way to get your Doberman to focus on you during training sessions. So what you do is, when you're training your dog, a lot of times we just naturally have a booming kind of commanding voice when we're trying to tell our dog to do something, which works fairly well sometimes, but then when you're out in public or you have guests over, you can really only expect your dog to respond when you're yelling and shouting at them, and you don't really always want that. So a great way to force them to focus on you strongly and to make commands a little easier down the road is to whisper your commands during training. So if you do stuff like sit, down, stay, in a very soft, quiet voice, they're gonna focus on you more, and hopefully next time you're out in public, you don't have to be embarrassed by screaming at your dog to get him to sit. Up next is the Vicks Vaporub trick. Now, do you have a Doberman who likes to counter surf, circle through your kitchen or your dining room table, sniffing for something they can grab maybe that you left on the edge? Or worse yet, do they jump up on the counter with their two paws and grab something off of there? Well, if that's you, I did do a whole video that could actually help you out, all about stopping counter surfing in Doberman specifically. It should be popping up in the corner of your screen. But one trick that Doberman owners use to prevent this is to take a little Vicks Vaporub and rub it along the bottom of their countertops. This really strong smell, it probably just overwhelms them, or it could just mask the smell. I'm not exactly sure why it works, but with that Vicks Vaporub there, it does help prevent some Dobermans from jumping up and grabbing your food off your counter. Now, the next trick I have is to use baby wipes in between baths for your Doberman. Now, using a baby wipe is a great way. A lot of owners help keep their dog a little cleaner and really make their coat shine in between bathing times. So just take 1 or 2 baby wipes and rub your dog down in the direction that the fur lays. Not only does this help break apart dirt and really keep them cleaner just a little bit longer and smelling better, but it also evenly distributes the oil throughout their coat. And if you've ever noticed when you brush your dog or do other things like that, they come out with that really nice shine. That's because you're distributing the natural oils in their coat more evenly throughout their body, and rubbing them down with a baby wipe does this really, really well. Next up, we have the chalk trick for keeping ants away from food or water bowls. So if you have an ant problem ever at your house where they just seem to take over a food bowl or a water bowl of your Doberman when it's outside, a great way to prevent that is to just take some thick sidewalk chalk and draw circles around the bowls. Something about that chalk helps dissuade the ants. From my understanding, from what other owners have said, it's a kind of temporary solution, but it works really well for a while. You might have to go back and reapply the circle later, but it's a great way to keep ants out of your dog's bowls if those bowls are outside. Next up is the one special toy trick. Now with this trick, you have one special toy that your dog really, really loves, but this is a toy that you only pull out at key times to help make breakthroughs with certain behaviors or training problems that you're trying to work through. In general, it's going to stay tucked away, maybe in a cupboard, for example. But let me give you an example of how you could use this. Let's say you're coming in through the door and you've had problems with your dog jumping up on you, and you're working on training through that. A great way to reward your dog next time you come through and they make some progress and they sit like they should is to pull out that special toy that they only get during these key times and play a little game with them if you need to, and really reward them that way. Another thing you could use it for is if your dog has some separation anxiety and you're trying to work through that. Give them their special toy that they really love more than anything right before you leave the house. So now they're going to start associating you leaving the house instead of with negative things, but with positive things. With positive things, I mean that one special toy that they get. It's a great way to make breakthroughs in these areas. Up next is the hand in the food bowl trick. Now, you may have heard this on my channel before, but I really believe in this one. I use it all the time. Most bites from dogs happen around feeding time or around their food. There's really a instinct in most dogs to resource guard. And a great way to prevent this is to start from a really young puppy when you're feeding your dog, to put your hand in there and really block them from eating for a second or two. As soon as the dog stops trying to push their muzzle through and just sits and waits and pulls their head back, then you can release the hand and give them the release command and let them go back to eating. It's a great way to assert yourself as a leader, but also to prevent biting issues down the road. It's also key if you have kids in the house, because a lot of times kids like to reach in the bowl, and if you're fully confident that your dog's not going to have any issues if a little kid hand goes in there, it's a really, really good feeling. Now, if you're watching this video and you've never done this before, please be extra cautious. You can use something else besides your hand, a small broom or something else besides your hand to block them the first couple times to kind of, make sure that they're going to have a reaction that you want. But this is a great way to prevent future issues down the road. Up next is the ball in the food bowl trick. Now, as you might know, Dobermans are prone to a condition called bloat. And bloat is when their stomach fills with gas and foam, and it can twist and do different things and cut off circulation and can ultimately be deadly for the dog. So a great way to reduce the chances of bloat is to slow down their eating. In fact, the AKC says that dogs that eat slower are at a 5 times lower risk for developing bloat as compared to fast eaters. Now, a great way to do this is to take a ball and stick it in your dog's food bowl as they're eating. Now it's going to create a little bit of obstruction in their food bowl. They're going to have to work to eat around it, and it might slow them down just enough to make a difference and ultimately, hopefully, make them a little safer. The next hack I have for you, and this is probably my favorite, is to teach your dog new tricks at meal times. Now, it's the best time to get your Doberman really hyper-focused on you. What you want to do is take the dog's food bowl at meal times, fill it with food like you normally would, put it behind you and stand in front of the food bowl, between the dog and the food bowl. Have the dog sit in front of you and give them 1 or 2 commands, then a release command, and praise them for a job well done. The great thing about this is it's just so motivating for the dog. They have hyper focus on you. They want to perform. And if they get used to performing these tricks before they get their food, then they're going to just even be that much more focused on you. I almost exclusively teach new tricks to my Doberman Arlo at meal times using this method. I'll use dedicated training sessions to reinforce commands that I've already introduced them to, but brand new commands, I'll almost exclusively use this trick, and it's amazing how fast you get results. Next up is to use bad weather to your advantage. It's no secret that Dobermans hate the rain and hate cold and that kind of thing. So you can actually use that to your advantage if you're trying to teach your dog certain boundaries, especially if it's from a covered area or a garage, for example. I use this. I will pick a specifically, let's say, rainy week if I want to teach my Doberman to stay in the garage, for example, and I'll train through that week. And the idea is hopefully that after that, he'll know that the garage is the end of his boundaries. He's not supposed to go outside of it. If you do it on a really pouring, rainy day, it's a great way to start to introduce him to that boundary. Now, the next one I have for you is called the multi-reward system for training. This is a great way to motivate your Doberman to perform a command or behavior that you really want. It's just a way to really supercharge the motivation if you're having trouble with that. What you do with this is you just give different rewards at different times and always keep your Doberman guessing, right? So if they do a command that you ask them one time, they might get a treat, or the next time they might get their favorite toy they haven't seen in a while that you've been hiding away. The next time they might get a really high value treat, like a piece of cheese or a little piece of meat or something. Next time they might just get a game and tons of praise and reward from you. Keeping them on their toes and always wondering what's going to be that next reward is sometimes, for a lot of dogs, a great way to highly motivate them to do what you want. It's also good when you go out in public because you don't always have treats on you, right? So if your dog only expects a treat every time, that could cause a problem if you're away from the house. So this is a great way to supercharge the motivation during training. The next trick I have is just something I call let them train themselves. These Dobermans are incredibly intelligent and they have a great learning style where they take a habit and turn that into a long-term behavior. All you got to do here, all you have to do is just communicate with your dog throughout the day. Keep the communication channels open. Have something that you say to your dog when they're doing something wrong, like no, have something when they're doing something great, like yes, good boy, yes, and just keep that communication throughout the day. Your dog will develop a habit that will turn into a long-term behavior all on their own. Yes. This is not a great way to teach complex behaviors, but if you're just trying to teach really good common household daily manners, this is a great way to do it. It really is just stupid easy with these dogs sometimes, guys. They're so intelligent. Just make sure not to give them just too many constant no's throughout the day. You don't want your dog to think that their name is no. Real quick, guys, one of the biggest concerns us Doberman owners have is, of course, the health of our dogs, especially the long-term health. And I don't know any better trick for approaching that than starting off with DNA testing your dog. It's just so important. You guys probably know how passionate I am about that. It'll give you so much insight in your dog, including the genetic origins of your dog, their genetic makeup, the longevity of your dog through something called the coefficient of inbreeding, their inbreeding levels. It'll give you insight into maybe any underlying risk factors they have for developing chronic conditions. It'll also even show you if you have any relatives of your dog in the area or somewhere nearby out there. And because more and more Doberman owners are seeing the importance of genetic testing their dogs, there's a good chance that you will find relatives of your pup if you get them DNA tested. Obviously, guys, I'm pretty passionate about the importance of DNA health testing our Dobermans. So much so, actually, I did a whole video all on that topic where I test my Doberman puppy, Arlo, and go over the results. That video should be popping up in the corner of your screen, but I'll also link to it down in the description down below so you can take a look at that as well. Please consider sharing this video with other Doberman owners out there, guys, far and wide, because there might be one or two cool tricks in this video that might help make their lives just a little bit easier. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like button down below before you go anywhere. Keep being great Doberman breed ambassadors, and of course, see you next time.